If someone said, I definitely have a desire for pausing, for resting, for feeling more inner calm, it's understanding, well, what current beliefs are sitting underneath there? Is there something there that's saying, do you know what? I've never seen it shown to me. I've never seen women in my life present themselves as calm and be successful and financially secure.
Welcome to the Morning Ritual Podcast. Here we uncover how small daily practices hold the key to a more aligned life. Rituals help us turn the mundane into the meaningful. They help us remember our values and visions and realign us with who we really are. This is not about overnight transformation. It's about intentional living, having presence over perfection. Each week, we hear from teachers, artists, healers, and creators about the rituals that keep them grounded, clear, and aligned. Their stories remind us that living intentionally isn't just possible, it's transformative. So take a breath and settle in. Today, we have Jenny Conway on the podcast. She is a mindset coach and business mentor. I have had the great privilege of getting to work with her, and now we get to chat here in the studio here in London. So let's give a warm welcome to Jenny. Jenny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. So fun.
Aww.
Love it.
By the way, we've had such giggles right before getting on here, so bear with us as we land.
It's good. This is good energy. It's what we're all about. So I love it. What a good start.
Like we said, you're a mindset coach and a business mentor, and you just explained to me the sort of difference of those two things. Can you repeat that?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I can't wait to go into all the details. So, yeah, just from the basics of the difference between a mindset, someone who's coaching versus mentoring. And the big difference there is if you're mentoring someone, as I am a business mentor, is I'm looking at then imparting my experience and my learnings onto the other person. So, for example, I had a retreat mentor, and so she helped me with figuring out certain things on, what are the steps to actually getting a retreat going? What's the background? What's the like whisper in the ear kind of thing? And that's what a mentor does, versus a coach is more getting to ask powerful questions to elicit a response from the coachee, from the person, from the client, and getting them to come to their own conclusion without your own subjective imprint as such. So with the clients that I work with, we explore if there's an outcome that they want, and then they're currently sat with different self-limiting beliefs, or they have an issue they can't seem to get through, or that level of life or business that they want to get through, then it's about working through it. And I do different tools and how I do that, which I can go into more detail, obviously. But those are from that basis, that's the clear distinction between the two. And that's why for me, I love marrying both, because I think there's place for both. Because yes, for me, being able to coach someone to get to that conclusion is beautiful. But sometimes there comes a point where, as someone I've had my own business for about 5 years, is actually then it comes to the steps, so what did you do when that person pulled out? How do you set up a Calendly link, or how do you actually go about putting in that sales page, and what would you recommend? So there's things like that which are more mentoring, but I feel like they can sit very nicely hand in hand for sure.
Oh, they go so well hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I really am pumped to talk about the mindset work in a bit. I've just recently been exposed to Joe Dispenza's work, which I'm sure you're so familiar with.
Yep, absolutely.
And just the power of the mind, like how our thoughts shape our reality. So I'd love to, in a little bit, go through some practical tools where we can actually apply them. Like by the end of this episode, you'll walk away feeling like, I can shift this.
100%.
But I find your story of how you've gotten to where you are so inspiring and incredible. And I remember when you did a workshop here at the space before, you said there were these 3 aha moments. Can you share your story with us again?
100%. And being here and being able to tell when I had that workshop here at the space, and being able to share that with the women was still something that sits really deeply inside of me. So in terms of, I mean, what brings me to this specific moment and why I do what I do is I went through different experiences, which we all do, but for me specifically, and why I'm now doing my mindset coaching and business mentoring is I went through a cervical cancer diagnosis coming up to just over 4 years ago now, 4.5 years ago. And it was around the time when it was COVID. It was like lockdown. My daughter at the time was around 6, 7 months old. And as you can imagine, with a diagnosis like that, you know, your whole world gets thrown upside down. It totally rocked the bottom of what I thought was stable, and it put into question everything that I thought was sturdy. So I started seeing life in HD. It's hard to describe it. If anyone's been through one day, you know, seemingly normal day, literally writing notes I had an activewear business, about what I was going to do, and then getting a call from the nurse saying, please come in and, you know, bring a partner with you. You know, I'll never forget that, because all of a sudden, you know, it's not good. And the thing for me that kind of got me through that period, one was obviously the support of my husband and my loved ones, but I started exploring things which could keep me feeling grounded, keep me feeling here rather than up in the logical brain where I would overthink, stress out. And I stumbled upon this guy who is called Stu Sandeman, the Breath Pod. And he started doing these, like every morning he would do like a breathwork session. And I would watch these. And sometimes they'd be breathwork, sometimes it would be a visualization. I remember one very vivid one. It was during my treatment. I was just about to go through chemoradiotherapy for my treatment. One of the visualizations that he asked us to do, was to picture something that you truly deeply desire. I really, really deeply desire. And he said, you know, it could be financial, it could be something that you want, a physical thing, it could be somewhere you want to be, it could be it could be your health. And the minute he said health, for me, it was so, you know, he asked you to go deep into the vision of what that looks like. What does health look like for me? What am I wearing? Where am I? And how does it feel in my body? And I started practicing that. And for me, it was me wearing all white. I knew exactly this park that I was in Fulham. And I could feel that, like the wind going through my hair. I knew which perfume I was wearing, which I think I'm actually wearing today as well. I wear it a lot, obviously, because it brings me back that whenever I do something that, you know, excites me, I try and wear that one. And I remember the feeling. I was there with my daughter, and I felt health. I felt health in every cell of my body, like literally. Oof. And I practiced that day in, day out, so that it became for me like a real anchor. It was like, this is what I want. This has to be my reality. And interesting, the Joe Dispenza link, I guess, around that time, I started exploring all his work as well. Now, of course, I had to go through treatment, and, you know, that got me well, and I'm now well and healthy and cancer-free for the last 4 years. It helped me. It helped me get that, okay, all right, this is what I want. Then fast forwarding, I guess, to when I was well and healthy, I got myself a mentor and a coach. And I mentioned I had a sustainable activewear brand. And at that point, it just didn't feel like me anymore. You know, I'd changed. I'd become a mother. I'd gone through cancer. I was older. I was changed. Physically, mentally, emotionally, I was a different woman. And so I got myself external help to be that reflection piece, to be like, what am I not seeing? Why am I feeling this? And it was then that I started saying the things that I was lacking, that I was missing. It was connections with other women, being able to talk about all the changes that I've done in my own mindset, all the things I changed with my inner dialogue, the work that I've done on myself, and then being able to travel and do all this stuff, which I wasn't at that point. And my mentor at the time said, have you ever thought about hosting retreats? And I was like, all of a sudden I got that gut. It was like the fire in my belly just swelled. And just thinking about it, I feel it again, you know, and it's that connection with that feeling which literally got me to start launching retreats and hosting retreats and doing day ones, abroad ones. And I've absolutely been loving it. And doing that which has been more and more of that brought me to where I am today, which is seeing that there was a gap between hosting and holding the space for women to pause and just breathe out, especially the women that I was welcoming, typically women in their mid-30s upwards, busy, sometimes children, sometimes work, just never creating that pause to just be like, okay, well, where do I want to go next? Where am I now versus the vision I wanted 5 years ago? So the coach that I still have now, I reflected on this, and one of the biggest pieces here was I had a big self-limiting belief around thinking I needed other people to grow. I needed to bring in other people to my retreats to make it good. I had this belief around, I'm just not that skilled enough. I just can't do it myself. It's just not part of who I am. Other people are better at it. And we did the most powerful exercises around breaking that ceiling of the self-limiting belief around me wanting to mentor others around mindset, about what I'd learned. And it's honestly, Lily, since that period, it was like night and day. After that session, I then went straight to, this was November of last year, straight to getting volunteer clients. I reached out to all my retreat guests and I was like, I'm doing volunteer mentoring around mindset for your business. And I got filled out with volunteer clients. Within 4 weeks, I was then working one-on-one with those clients. Within 8 weeks, I'd gotten my first paid clients. And within 12 weeks, I had filled out my one-on-one paid clients. And it was honestly hugely down to eradicating that belief around, you're just not good enough for it, Jen. Yeah. And now obviously I've been retraining, I'm doing everything part of the process. But yeah, so that's what brings me to here now.
Yeah, incredible. And it's amazing that the limiting belief went from I need other people to work with me to actually I'm going to work with other people to help them. Instead of leaning on somebody, you're allowing somebody to lean on you, which is such a mega shift. And it sounds like it happened pretty quickly. And that's what I'm finding about mindset work is that you can actually, doesn't take that long to switch, but you can stay stuck in a certain mindset for years. But actually with the right guidance, you can switch these limiting beliefs pretty quickly and see the transformation. So that's pretty incredible. And something that also I want to touch on, because I think it's so inspiring, is because you talk about that aha moment, which I want to get even more detailed about what that is, or that feeling, that emotional, that desire. Yeah. You had that when you left the corporate world and started your activewear brand.
Yes.
That was a mega move and part of the journey. And I want to talk about where you were, what you felt when you were like, I need to leave my job, and how you went into starting your own activewear brand, which was being sold in John Lewis, right? Mega. What was that like?
I mean, I'll be straight up and honest. It wasn't my decision. It was it was a shock redundancy. So it was that redundancy. He's the catalyst.
Wow.
That literally.
Thank God, though.
Honestly, blessing in disguise. And I remember going into the office. He handed me the letter. I was working at this big design agency doing business development. And he gave me the letter. I was like, what are you doing? But it had been sitting there for so long. I've always wanted my own business. When I was 10, I think I set up a babysitting business, and I got trained in first aid and started babysitting slightly younger children, but not by much because I was a child myself. But it's always been that desire to want to do it. But then I fell into the pitter-patter of, okay, do the management degree. All right, let's go into this pattern. This is who you are. You're going to do sales. And then, it was the shock redundancy that got me to just say, okay, I can either go this way or I can go that way. And it was actually my husband, and he'll love this, but it was him. He works out a lot, and he happened to wear a lot of bamboo t-shirts, and he sweats a decent amount. And he was just raving about these bamboo t-shirts that he loved. And we were at this pub in wherever it was, and he was telling me about it. He was like, I love this. This is such a good fabric. And it got me thinking more and more about, interesting, I feel like this was 2000, and I launched 2018. So it was a bit before. There was no Girlfriend Collective. No, a lot of these brands hadn't I don't know if a Gotham Collective is still a brand now, I'm not sure, but a lot of that sustainably sourced activewear wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want something that's got a bit of that Scandi, being half Swedish. It's like, I want something sleek, the perfect pair of black leggings, well made, good for the planet, or better for the planet, and made in a way that I can still dress it up with boots and a white t-shirt or white shirt, whatever. I went through the Princess Trust and I got myself part of their program there, which is now the King's Trust. And I literally did the program, got through that, did the accelerator, and then I launched my business. It took about a year, and then I got going, which is great. But as any small business owner knows, it had its ups, and when it was up, it was beautiful. And having that, we did a pop-up with John Lewis. We had amazing collaborations with awesome brands as well as events, but it's hard. It's hard. And doing it solo and trying to do that, you have to really, like, back to that thing you said about the feeling, it has to be inside.
Really
and
alive.
Towards my changes of after having becoming a mother and then going through what I went through, it was lacking.
Yeah.
So, and I guess 4.5 years of the business, I was like, okay, I've put in my innings, and it is either at a point of getting investment or then trying to pivot. And for me, pivoting felt right. But I think it's a very individual decision to make, and for me, it felt right. But that's also because I was okay to ask for that external help. I couldn't do it alone, which I think often as I don't know if it's women, but we feel like, okay, well, I've got this now. I've made my bed. I've got to stick with it. But for me, it felt that wasn't, that was no longer the version of me who set it up in the first place. So
Yeah, no, you were changed. And I just started, I've dipped a toe with working with mentors and coaches and usually one-off sessions. And I've gotten a lot out of them. And then I go and I apply the learnings, and then I might touch back in. But this is the first time that I've really committed. I've started working with a business coach who really works through the lens of human design, which is like so cool. I'm going to try to have her on the podcast, so we'll see if we can get her on. But something that she's really made me look at is how much space I have in my schedule to just rest, reflect, restore, like let the creative juices come, let the ideas come, where I am not constantly pushing to produce and to do. And that for me, being able to claim space and time and rest, like when I'm in it, feels so good and so right. But actually like carving out that time feels so wrong. And I've realized I've done a little bit of mindset work around like, what are my beliefs with rest and space and taking time? And man, oh man, there's so much guilt that comes up. So I don't know if we could use this potentially as an example. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels guilty for resting sometimes, despite being a freaking meditation teacher and telling people to rest left and right. I still come up with that guilt. And I don't know if we can like spend a minute workshopping that in any way. Like, how would you work with someone who is like, I know I need more space in my schedule. I can't carve it out. There's too much to do. I don't have enough time.
I mean, it's such a beautiful one. It's the first thing is having that self-awareness to say, I know when I do it, it feels good, but how do I get myself to want to do it? And so how I work with my clients, let's say if a client, presented this, they came and they're like, Jen, I'm just too busy. I can't prioritize this. I know that I should, and I will do in maybe, I don't know, a month's time. I can do it. Here's what I would want, if it's something which they deeply desire. And this is the number 101 of transformational coaching is you will not create change if you don't desire to change. So if there isn't a desire inside for you to breathe out, if you don't actually have the desire to want to change how your current life looks like,
it won't happen.
It won't happen.
Okay, I can tell you I've got the desire.
Okay, good. You're good. Right. Step number 1. So that desire is really intrinsic. And now we want to get one step further, is understanding the difference, obviously, between therapy and coaching is with therapy, you tend to go backwards. You tend to look back and assess, how does that now reflect on you? How you experienced the past? Whereas with coaching, the way that I coach is I look at future, your highest self, visualization. I bring you to that version of you and connects you with her, as well as a version of you that maybe isn't doing that. And how does that feel in your body? How does that land when you think, okay, it's a year from now, I've still not created space to pause. How does she present herself? What is she wearing? What are her facial features? What's her posture like? How is she talking to her loved ones? And even that connection, and I do this with every client of mine, that connection to no change in a year's time can sometimes be even more powerful than the one with change, because it makes you think, oh, actually, I don't want to be there. Okay, I need to change something. So with that is one, trying to obviously establish the desire, and then two is trying to see, before we get there, we need to figure out what's sitting underneath the hood. What's actually sitting there in terms of your beliefs around, are you able to create space? Are you telling yourself that your identity is, I'm just always busy? And we all have that person in our lives who says, I'm too busy for that. I can't create space. So I'm too busy. And that is an identity that person has chosen to embody. Just like I don't prioritize self-care, or it's just not my thing. I don't do meditation, or whatever it may be. It's just not who I am. I'm this person. Yeah. We've all adopted that based on either external influences or based on conditioning. So over time, your thoughts, that your inner self-talk, that's turned into your beliefs, and then your beliefs are turned into your habits. So you're constantly actually always running late. Okay, I'm not going to show up for that on time. That person sees me as a late person. That's just who I am. Then your behaviors then reflect that. So
we want to prove ourselves right.
That's it.
So when we're like, right? I am always late.
Yeah.
We're going to try to prove ourselves right subconsciously.
Absolutely. And that keeps you safe.
Yes.
So
familiar.
Absolutely familiar. And the brain just wants to keep you safe, happy, and cushy.
Yeah.
Whereas growth comes from, let's say yes to that next thing. It feels a bit icky, but I'm going to reframe it as excitement. Okay, Here we go. And so what I would want to do, if someone said, I definitely have a desire for pausing, for resting, for feeling more inner calm, it's understanding, what current beliefs are sitting underneath there?
Yeah.
Is there something there that's saying, do you know what? I've never seen it shown to me. I've never seen women in my life present themselves as calm and be successful and financially secure. What are those beliefs? So let's get those beliefs out.
Nice.
And I do a belief exercise with my clients where we look at, okay, let's say there's one topic. I want to create more space to just breathe and relax. Okay, well, what are your beliefs around that, about you being able to do that? And then we try and establish in the second column is, where's the proof? Where's the evidence that belief is actually factually true? And by giving your brain the evidence that it's just not factually true, we can assess and say, okay, well, that's just something that I'm repeating over and over. And then you want to do in the third column is actually rewrite those beliefs. So based on, okay, we've now brain dumped everything out. We've put down on paper all the beliefs around that are sitting in there, and there's more. And this is the exercise which some people put the obvious ones, and then your subconscious holding on to those other ones. And I did this recently for myself, and I'm constantly doing it. I'm like, why can't I move to that next level of my business? Okay, all right. And I work through with my coach. She's like, what's that thing? And I had one recently, which was around to do with not being able to see a version of me out there in my upbringing. I've seen men do it. I've seen men get very successful.
Oh, okay.
But being a mother, having a career that I'm proud of, but also doing it in a place that doesn't create illness or doesn't create burnout. And it's like, if I hadn't witnessed it, then it can't be real. Whereas what I've now done for myself is I've retrained my brain with new beliefs. I literally physically tore up the old beliefs, and I rewrote some new beliefs for me. And I've been practicing those beliefs. So now I am in full embodiment of that. So there's no way that it won't happen. I've eradicated that doubt. And it's so exciting when you get to that point when you realize it was just an identity I created for myself. And just the same with what you're saying. What's the identity that you're coming to the platform with? What's the identity you're choosing to step into? And we're making that decision every day, you know? And I think it's that pause that then gets you to take the next step, which is like, okay, well then I don't want to hold those beliefs. I want to hold these ones. So then for you, it'd be saying, okay, these are the ones. I want to be able to block out 2 hours a day where I go for the walk. I practice the meditation. And that for me is a really good day.
Yeah. And the evidence, I know also the positive evidence, when I do it, I feel so much better. And I just love unpicking the beliefs. And one thing that is coming up for me is like, I've never had a corporate job, which to me is like growing up, it's like you should have a corporate job that has stability and benefits and a pension. And I went to study dance and was in a dance company, and here I am running my business with yoga and meditation. And that sort of stability, in that sense, I've never experienced. So I've tried to, in the past, and I'm working through it, almost like prove that I can have a full 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, be just as busy as you without having that corporate job. And it's like, wait, why am I trying to fit the mold? And so it's breaking out of that mold and going by the beat of my own drum, which is feeling so much better, so empowering.
Because I would imagine that if you compare that version of you that is trying to fit it within that mold versus the one that actually is just freed from it, those two sit in the body very differently, don't they?
Oh, that second one is so much more expansive. And just this image of like, when I take up space, I expand into that spaciousness. So it's like, oh my gosh, let's trust that.
That connection with that version, let's say the one that has tapped into that, and feeling, if I was to take you through a visualization now and connect you with that, but take you on a body level where I connect you with that, and you feel it in every cell of your body, what it feels like to be holding that space, but doing it from flow and ease and connecting with how it feels inside your body. And if you practice that and you feel it and you have an actual emotional shift, emotional surge, it's that linked with your vision.
Okay, so it's the emotional surge.
100%.
That really makes a difference.
And it's just the same with practicing gratitude. So I've tried all the things in the past, which is writing down the things I'm grateful for. But the way that I do it, that feels more activating for me, is I go outside every morning, I look up. Typically, interestingly enough, if you get up in the morning and you look, for me, 8 times out of 10, it's a blue sky in the morning, which blows my mind, by the way. Every time I do it, I just think, my goodness, it's actually a blue sky a lot more than I would have thought. That's a side note. It's just having done that practice for so many years now that I've noticed that is an observation which I wouldn't have done if I hadn't stepped outside. But what I do then is I do this process, which I can go through in terms of tapping, and then I really feel gratitude. And it's typically 2 or 3 things, but it has to be something that moves me. I feel it in my body, like, oh my God, it feels so good to be healthy. Oh, God, that feels good. And I feel it now when I talk about it. And it's the more you tune in with that intuition, the more it like, whew, or it gives me goosebumps, or my tummy flips. And the more you tune in, the more it gets exciting. But it's, if you haven't done that for a while, it can feel a bit scary to go into that because you're like, oh wow, how long have I not been tuning in?
I'm a morning girly. I love that like liminal space from when you've woken up, before you've checked the phone, before life has begun. And I try to extend that space and meditate in that space and write in that space. And there's something about when you wake up, you can actually, like your mind, that brainwave state that your mind is in is the most receptive to change. And so if you wake up and you say like, today is going to be a great, like, okay, I was on a different podcast, somebody else's podcast a couple days ago. And I woke up and my initial surge was like nerves. Like, this is a mega podcast that I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm going on it. And I woke up quite nervous. And I was like, wait, let's think of Joe Dispenza. And I was like, flipped the script and was like, I'm so excited and I'm going to have so much fun with this. And I repeated that a few times and I let my body feel like actually having fun in this setting and visualized it. And let me tell you, a few hours later, when I went to that podcast recording, we had so much fun. And I was like, okay, I want to play with this more. Do you find that like
Yeah.
that morning, I don't know, would you recommend stuff like that to your clients, or what are your thoughts on
Yeah, I love
precious
all of that. It
morning
literally gets me so excited. I have every morning and when you're in that theta brainwave, that's when it's that most active every morning. Today's going to be a great day. And I've taught it to my daughter now, who just screams out, today is going to be a lovely day. So she screams it out. But I absolutely would recommend just figuring out, one is tuning into what works for you, right? So for me, I'm like you, I'm a morning person. So I have to do it in that calm space. At the end of the day, my brain is just, I need a rest, but a different type of rest. So when you talk about that theta brainwave, right before into that in-between state of kind of being awake, kind of not being awake, that is one of the most powerful places to be, to actually access it. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll visualize how I want that day to go. So for example, coming here with you, interestingly enough, I had a lot of laughter in the visualization. I wanted to feel calm, confident, and capable, and how I want other women to feel when they're listening to it. And I do this with everything that I have to do that's slightly new or different. I'll practice the visualization. So I recently hosted a vision reset day in London, and it was so beautiful, so beautiful. A room of 12 women, and getting them to practice, one, to create the space to just be like, okay, this is now my time. I get to eat good food. I get to be with other women who are also here to up level. They have their own businesses, or they're thinking about setting up their own businesses. But we're doing it from that place of calm, rather than, okay, this is what she does in the industry, so maybe I should do that. Oh, I could do that, but I could do this, I could do that, when cortisol and adrenaline is in. So it's like, okay, let's reconnect with that version of you inside, and then let's move. And it's all about getting that connection with that. So for me, the power of visualization is, as you know from the beginning of my story, it was paramount. It was literally, for me, I don't want to say life and death, but it was so helpful in keeping me grounded to my life, to my health. My big mission is to help other women feel lit up with their lives before getting ill, having a burnout. And I think about my daughter is, I don't want her to wait until she gets ill or has a burnout to realize that she can be lit up with her life.
Yeah.
And, it makes me feel stirred inside, because it's so visceral for me. That is paramount. That is the key to it all. So that means I'm able to do all the fun things. Everything fits underneath that umbrella. And that's why when I work with clients who are presenting, let's say, a block in terms of getting to, okay, I've created this business, but I have this self-limiting belief that I'm just not good enough. I'm just not successful enough to get to where she is. I don't think I can do it. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do little tiny steps. And what we would do together is actually work on, okay, well, let's assess what those self-limiting beliefs are. Then let's get you embodying the new beliefs through calming the nervous system, through doing visualizations, and then repeating mental rehearsal, and getting them feeling that inner buzz again. Because, my goodness, let's have fun, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that
all of
piece
this is
that piece of calming the nervous system first, I think is potentially underrated in the coaching world.
Yeah.
Where it's there is so much focus on the future and where we want to go, and it could easily be hustle culture, and actually starting from a grounded nervous system that's cared for with space and time, and that theta brainwave state you were talking about is where we learn the fastest, where we change the fastest, where we are the most creative and our ideas come up. So it's that slowing down to actually get further, which is I know it's still feeding into maybe doing more in hustle culture, but actually, no, it's this beautiful, spacious way of growing and expanding. That's so underrated in the like business world.
You
So I'm so glad you
well, yeah.
start there. And with people who are like listening and they might be like, wait, I don't believe that I could wake up tomorrow, say in my brain, it's going to be a great day and that's going to change the course of my day.
Yeah.
If that is you, fair enough. Like
Mhm.
how practical and logical of you.
Mhm.
But why not try it?
Mhm.
Why not try it on for size and like play with it? Or today I'm going to feel extra confident when I teach my yoga class and bring that. Like, why not play with it?
I
Right?
think that's exactly it. And I guess the area which, for me, when I hear you talk about that, it gets me so excited because when you've been faced with illness, when you've been told it could go this way or it could go that way, and when you get told that, there's something that happens within you that makes you realize the only thing I really want is my health. There's so many isms out there around that. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So once you've been faced with that, and that's what I had to feel, I realized that once I got better, all of this is a plus. All of this is a plus. So let's have fun. Let's play with it. Exactly to what you said. And it comes back down to, okay, well, what if you did wake up tomorrow and you said, let me practice. Let me look in the mirror. And instead of the inner dialogue being, God, look at that. Oof, it doesn't look so good. Or everything's a bit misplaced. Why don't you wake up tomorrow as that version of you that you wish you could be, that you think you are deep inside, that highest version of you. Wear the earrings, dress like her, try it, experiment it tomorrow, and see how that fits. See how your posture then lands when you wear that and you embody that version. You might try it once, nothing happens. You keep on embodying, you start having conversations as her. People start responding to you in a different way, right?
You know where my brain went?
Yeah.
Sorry to be a Debbie Downer, but I pictured myself in like bright. I always wear like black or blue, and I like that. But when you said what is she wearing, I pictured myself in an extravagantly like brightly colored outfit and like just looking a certain type of way, and I immediately thought of the people in my life. I mean, funny enough, these people are not close to me in my life, but people on the outskirts being like, what is she wearing? Who does she think she is? The judgment and the projections that come when you start to level up. Do you feel like that's part of the process? Like as women or humans stepping into their fullest embodied presence and power, do you think getting like those projections is part of the process? Or how do you deal with that?
Absolutely. There's something very jarring when someone sees someone else changing. It can trigger something within themselves that they didn't expect they would feel. So when you go through periods of growth, someone can see that as triggering for themselves. And what they can then do is try and tell you, oh, are you sure you want to do that? Let's keep you in this box because this feels good for me.
I know you in that box. Stay there.
Stay there. So what I would say to that is look at it for what it is. It's their understanding. However, what is within your control is how we choose to experience that reflection. And I've had it in my own life, with the drastic changes I've made. Some people come along and others decide, not for me.
Yeah.
And it has to come from that deep place of inner knowing. And I think I touched on it earlier, is when you eradicate that self-doubt, when you eradicate that doubt of, okay, I know where I want to go and I'm going to do it and it's going to feel good. And everyone who wants to come along for it, let's do it together. But there is so much pressure from, let's say, when you said you're wearing all those bright colors, what would others think? Honestly, I need to say this, that with my clients, it is often, social media is a big one.
Yeah.
So, okay, what if I do want to wear the bright colors and I want to pitch myself as this person? Goodness me, what are they going to think about me? But that is your own construct of your own identity.
Yeah.
So when you start embodying the values and the beliefs and the thoughts of that person who is living and breathing and doing her thing, it becomes so exciting.
Yeah.
But it's a process, right? So it's a process of doing it. But the big misconception is that you have to wait a year to get there. And I'm someone who learns by doing. So I got straight into mentoring because I had the women, they were asking me these questions anyway. I got cracking And then along the way have been certifying, learning. And I'm here.
Yeah.
But it's not holding me back. And I think what we end up doing is, I don't know if it's a kid of the 90s, whatever, but there's different influences that perhaps keep you in one area, one box. You're like, okay, I always did business, I touched into fashion, but that's not who I am, so I'm going to stay in this box. Whereas actually, how freeing is it to be like, oh, actually, I'm going to create my own box.
Yeah.
But it needs to feel good for you.
Yeah. And if it feels aligned for you, it's sort of, if somebody judges it, you can more clearly see, oh, yeah, this is a projection. This is something that it's their reflection, and that's cool.
Yeah.
If you like own it, which I think is a big part of it.
But it's to your point, it isn't straightforward.
Yeah.
Because you'll do it, you think you'll do it, and then you'll get an external input and it'll make you feel a certain way. And then it's just about, and that's why having someone who is if it's a mentor or a coach, to be able to say, hey, okay, check me back in with that high self. Okay,
yeah.
Where am I?
That's been the coolest thing of this like human design coach I work with, Jules. She's like the biggest cheerleader I have ever had. And I'm like, I've known her for 2 weeks. But she's just reflecting back at the things, like she has the evidence of what it is I want to do, what it is I've done, and she just is reflecting it back and is like, and that is really, really helpful. I've underestimated it.
It's a total game changer. I think investing in that part, someone to not only be in your corner, but also for that version of you.
Yeah.
You know, everyone else can see you that way, but you're like, this is the one that I want to be stepping into, which is so powerful, because then you feel limitless. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of a listener who's like, they've identified, they've got this limiting belief, and maybe it's less so about what, you know, how I used an example of creating space in your life, or what if it's more so about like who they are fundamentally? Like, I'm someone who just, I can't make money, or I am incapable of being my own boss, or whatever. Like right now, is it journaling, exercise, visualization? Is there one thing that person can do just to take one step forward and get them unstuck?
I would say it's really simple. It comes down to noticing what is going on in your brain. Actually taking stock of what are the thoughts that keep on going. We have around 60 to 70,000 thoughts, and about 90 a day. And 90 to 95%, those are the same ones as yesterday. So if you think about that, you're literally creating the same reality as you created yesterday. So now that comes to an interesting reflection where you think, or do I want to create the same reality the day after day after day after? So I would say if someone is feeling like, well, this is who I am, and I'm not sure if this is who I want to be, I would say notice what that pattern of thoughts are. Are you constantly berating yourself? Are you always telling yourself you're not good enough? Or someone critiques you and you think, oh, well, that was right. I'm not that person. Or are there moments of celebration where you're noticing, actually, I do pick myself up with that. I love that. Or when I'm speaking to that person, gosh, she makes me feel good. I feel giddy. Okay, all right. And it's as simple as taking stock of what those thoughts are.
Yeah.
And I know, of course, you can do journaling, you can do all things, but I like to keep it super simple. Noticing what goes on in the brain, and then you can either keep a log if you want, but it's that first exercise, because there's literally no point in trying to create new ones if we don't know our baseline.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're at, it's going to be very difficult to build from that. So we need to understand what you think consciously is, okay, I'm not good enough, I'm not skilled enough, but what's subconscious? What's kind of that deep-rooted belief, as I mentioned, one of mine was, and then it's trying to eradicate that. And then I would say, okay, so these are my beliefs. I can notice that on the whole, 80% of my day is good inner self-talk, or actually 60% is really bad. Then I would say do that exercise around self-limiting beliefs. You know, draw out 3 columns, do a brain dump based on the desire that you want. If it's a business desire, so I work primarily with female founders, and they have mindset blocks to getting to the next level. So I'm like, okay, so if that's the goal you want to go to, you want to get 10,000 people in your world, how are we going to make that happen? What are the beliefs around that? So brain dumping all of those, And then in the second column, like I said, is just what's the evidence.
Yeah.
And then third column is let's rewrite them. Let's get the new ones. And that can be quite difficult because maybe we haven't primed ourselves to think about, I am capable of achieving what I put my mind to.
Yeah.
I'm fully in ownership of my day, of my time, of my hours. I choose to create 2 hours of calm so that I can slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. Maybe we can whip up a little simple
Yeah.
3-column PDF and
100%.
allow our listeners to just download it. And that's very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Jenny. And another thing I want to add on that, just from like what I've played with in my own life, is I've given my inner critic a bit of a voice.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I notice her creeping in, I can separate from it a bit. And it might sound cuckoo when I say it out loud, but it's actually like very helpful.
Yeah.
Like I'll hear a negative thought and then I'll be like, wait. And just identifying that that is my inner critic and it's just trying to keep me safe. It's just trying to keep me small and safe and in my box. And having that, like, I see you and I'm like giving you a voice creates a little space. Has really helped.
I think that's I remember. Do you remember Mo Gaudat, Soul for Happy?
No.
He talks a lot about exactly that. He calls his inner critic Becky.
Okay.
And like you say, attaching a name to it creates that separation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, the fear of judgment and fear of comparison is actually just fear presenting itself, keeping us where we are, and it's safe for us to just stay put.
Yeah.
But imagine what you did if you did say yes to that podcast, or you did send that email. Make every Friday your scary pitch email day.
Yeah.
You know, putting yourself out there. What could happen? What might happen? What might not happen?
Yeah.
But let's plant those seeds and see what can come from it, because let's have a bit of fun with it.
Let's have a little bit of fun. And like also there's ways we can create internal safety in our body so that we can take these little risks, like through, you find your ways, meditation, yoga, talking to a therapist, moving the body, grounding, breath work. Like we talk about all of those things here on the podcast. So that is really my mission, is to share these tools and techniques and ways of thinking to reestablish safety in the body so we can expand from that grounded place. So this is so helpful for me. I hope it was helpful for our listeners. For those who would like to get in contact with you and learn more about your work, where can we find you?
So I'm still on my lovely brand name, which was my activewear, which I've pivoted. So it's Evamoso. So EVAMOSO_wellness.
Great.
And I do these clarity calls with women. So they're complimentary at the moment, where we deep dive into anything that's sitting there. If it's a little issue, anything that's sort of sitting on the surface, and we do a deep dive visualization, and then they leave with a bit of a roadmap on what to take. So for me,
your clarity call's about to get all booked up. Get them while they're hot.
I mean, it gets me so excited because then I get to connect with those women who are ready for that.
Yeah.
So my Instagram is there, and then on my website evamoso.com is mostly my retreats that I'm doing. And then I've got a vision reset workshop for anyone based in London, which will be happening in November. So the waitlist is open. It's a small group of women, so I try and keep it quite intimate. We had 12 on the last one, and it allows for a really cool energy. Awesome. You know, not too much. And so for anyone who's either founded a business or is thinking about going on their own, or they're looking at that, I'm about to pivot, I'm about to do something, I'm looking for that guidance, but from that calm nervous system, then that would be the one to book yourself into.
I might see you there.
Yeah.
Oh, Jenny, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll end this episode the way we always do, with just a full breath in and a full breath out. And have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.